What's up, fam? Welcome back to the channel. This is Constant Sports, and we're gonna get into it, right? Some big games in college basketball today. Pretty much, I think the biggest game that everybody was watching out for was Uconn versus Tennessee, right? Old history, old rivalry there. And I say old because it hasn't really been a rivalry since 2007, right? That was the last time Tennessee won. And if you know anything about women's basketball and who was playing in Tennessee in 2007, you will understand why it's an old rivalry. It hasn't mean much, right? And since then, neither one of the teams has really been like those number one teams, right? For a while, UConn was there when they had Brianna Stewart and they won those four chips, right? But pretty much in the same past, I think there was like, I think the thing said like 8 years. Nothing much has happened between these two teams when it comes to being the top teams in the country anymore, right? You have other teams that have come in and taken over that. And I really haven't watched that many UConn games this season just because when they were playing against the teams that were ranked and outside of their conference, they did beat some of them, right? They beat a couple of the ranked teams when they were ranked. But it was the lower guys. But then when they were playing like Notre Dame, they lost to these teams that were high ranking in uh, in the polls. So them playing against Tennessee, even though Tennessee was the number 19th ranked team, which they should, these rankings should change definitely after tonight. It was the fact that Tennessee might be the number 19 team, but they're still SEC, right? And of their games that they've lost, they are only losing, they've only lost those games by like 2 points or even less, so off of last second shots. I know when they played my LSU Tigers, they only lost off of a last second shot that couldn't go up. So Tennessee is a big team. They're very big. They don't have many small guards. Their point guard, I believe, is like the smallest person on the floor, and she's like 5'7". But other than that, all of their players are 5'10", and they can handle the ball and they can make difficult shots. And that's what they did tonight. They made difficult shots against UConn, contested shots, shots that look like there's no way they should have went in. And their speed. The UConn has speed, but for to play a team where everyone on the floor has speed. Usually you'll play a team and like three of the five players have speed. Your bigger players, they're a little bit slower. But with Tennessee, they're all fast. They all can take the ball up the court. They all can get out to get open. And that's what happened with against UConn. And the game was good. UConn was up. Tennessee went on this 13-0 run to get the lead. And once UConn fought back and tied the game, it was basket for basket. And Tennessee ended up coming out on top. Their passing, I believe, at towards the end of the game, UConn's passing got a little sloppy. They had some players that were open, and all they needed was a pass right to their chest so they can just catch and shoot. And the balls were hitting towards their feet. So I believe it's because of the defense. Because of the defense, and then some of the pressure that UConn was putting on themselves. Uh, they were putting too much pressure on themselves. They were trying to move faster because they know Tennessee moves fast. So they just caused a lot of turnovers. There was turnovers that no one, like, it was only on them. Um, and so I think that's also what helped Tennessee more than it helped UConn. But overall, it was a really, really good game. It showed a lot from each team, what each team can bring. Because I do see both of these teams making it to the dance. I don't particularly see any teams make it to the Final Four. Possibly, I do see them possibly making it to the Sweet 16. But for me, it's the reason why I haven't watched UConn is because their conference play is pretty much what keeps them high in the rankings. to be honest. Once they lost those two games to the ranked teams, the higher ranked teams, they should have been knocked out a lot. But they didn't. They knocked them down like two spots. But then they get into conference play where there's no one touching UConn in the Big East. No one. They're winning their games by 30 plus points, right? So that doesn't interest me. Watching you play your conference play doesn't interest me. I want to watch SEC conference play. I want to watch the ACC conference play where there's multiple teams in those conferences that are ranked. There are multiple teams that can put pressure on you and they know how each other play and they can still adapt to it. No matter if you're ranked and I'm not ranked, when you play me in conference play, I'm going to give you everything I got and you don't have to work hard for it. So I feel like UConn definitely has a much easier road than other teams when it comes to making the dance just because of their conference, right? And I know that's why they try to schedule a lot more of the outside conference games that are against good teams because a lot of like your SEC teams, their out of conference games are against smaller teams, right? Because as you guys know, I love when they do that. I love when they play smaller schools, local schools in their area because what that does for their programs. But they out of conference, but they play legit teams. But it's only because of the fact that they don't get competition in their conference, right? Those games, their conference games are kind of like what SEC and the ACC, what they use against out of conference teams, right? Teams just to make sure they're understanding their plays and stuff like that. So I was really excited to see how they played against a ranked team in the SEC, and they did very well. It's just a lot of things they have to tighten up and have to realize that Tennessee is just the 19th team in the country, right? There are still two teams in the SEC that are well ahead of them. I wouldn't say well, I'd say South Carolina is definitely well ahead of them. And their game against LSU, they lost on a last second shot, right? So those are that's your competition that you have to beat, right? And obviously they have to try and beat Notre Dame, whom they've lost to already this season. Um, and then you have USC, who I believe that UConn lost to USC this season. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Believe that that was one of their losses this year was to USC. Let's see. Um, so to see where they can go from here, there's a lot that they need to work on, but not really, right? Yes, it was USC that they lost to USC and as number 7 in Notre Dame when they were ranked number 8. Um, And the game to USC, they lost by 2 points, which that was an amazing, amazing game. And then Notre Dame beat them 79-68. And like I said, they played some teams that were ranked. UNC, Miss Ole Miss, Louisville. And you're looking at that, I believe Louisville now is the number there. I don't even believe they're ranked anymore. I don't believe USC is ranked anymore. Um, Louisville isn't, and I don't believe USC is either. They might be. Yes, they are. They're the number 13 team. So they beat UNC when UNC was 14, but now UNC is only number 13. So since then, UNC has only went up one position, just because of their record. And then you have Ole Miss, who is a SEC team, and at the time they were ranked, but they're not ranked anymore. Um, so I just need for to see UConn play a little bit more tougher schedules or teams. Not schedules, but tougher teams as it gets closer to March Madness. And they're gonna get their next shot is up against good old South Carolina. Uh but in between there they have two conference games, which will be breezes for them, but it'll help them work on some of the stuff that they learned from the Tennessee game, right? So it's exciting. I think the South Carolina game will make a lot of noise just because it's UConn and South Carolina, and those two teams don't play that often. So as of right now, I'm still on the fence about UConn, um, just because they haven't shown me much these past few years. They're a good team, they just can't finish it, right? And so, obviously, South Carolina won their game today by a landslide, beating Georgia, which is South Carolina. I don't really know what more we can say about this team and their coach. They're a very well put together team. They all know how to play with each other, which is very hard. I believe Kilmoky said it, to have 10 McDonald's All Americans on your team and to actually get them to play with each other and stay. That's hard. That's hard, and a lot of teams choose not to do that because they know how hard it is. And then you want to bring someone into your system, and because they're not getting as much playing time as they want to, they leave. But the environment and the culture around South Carolina is, there's something going on there that they want to stay, and I'm loving it. I mean, I don't love it as much as others because you always know I'm an LSU fan, but something's working for Coach Staley, and it's gonna keep working, right? Obviously, LSU and Mizzou is playing right now. This game has been rocky, guys. So obviously, LSU is up by 10, 50. Well, yeah, up by 10, 58 to 48 at the moment, and it's just both teams started off shooting slowly. LSU even more than anything, and the rebounding was off. So the second half they've definitely cleaned it up, but I'm not sure what was causing these slow starts. Like, you had 11 points in the first quarter to Mizzou's 15, and then 20 points in the second, 20 points in the third to Mizzou's 12. Fourth quarter, you'll see which team can dig deep and win a game. And we've seen LSU do it, right? Against Stanford, we've seen them come back and win games in the fourth quarter. But it's not something you always want to be happening, right? It's not a it's not a normal thing. You want your teams to be consistent throughout the entire game. And we know LSU go up and they go down. They'll have a great first half and a not so good second half, or or great first half, a bad third quarter, and then the fourth quarter they have to come back and make up for the third quarter while getting the lead or maintaining the lead in the fourth quarter. So that's definitely something that Coach Moki will have to work on. But I mean, that's pretty much been LSU for the past couple years anyway, and it's gotten them far. But you have to get better and get rid of that practice that's happening. Um, that's all I'm going to talk about for the NCAA women's basketball, right? Slide over into the WNBA. We already know about all of the signings, all of the trades, all of the players that are signing. And there's some new things. We have Tip Harris, who is pretty much leaving Vegas and going over to the Valkyries, which I think is good because she rejoins her coach, who used to be an assistant coach for Vegas, who is now the head coach of the Valkyries. And she also gets to link back up with Kate Martin, who I think they became very close while they were playing together in Vegas, and I think that's a good veteran leadership for the Valkyries because they're a young team. They're a team that's pretty much was brought together just by how the draft happened when it came to the expansion team. And I know there was an article that came out how it's been very difficult for the Valkyrie to attract talent, especially with all these moves that has happened within the past 2 weeks. They couldn't get any big names to come over, and it's understandable, right? A lot of your good players in the league are older players. They're on their way out, and they want to try to get to a team where they can win. They're not really trying to get to a franchise where they're the face of that franchise. Like, they don't. They don't want that anymore. And you've seen that with a lot of these moves. They're going to teams where they're not the face of the franchise. They're there to help that franchise get to the next level. Um, so I think that's the issue right now that the Valkyrie are getting. But I do believe that they will get some other players. Obviously, with the draft coming up, and they have the number 5 pick, I believe it is, and I do see them. I see them winning quite a few games. I see there's possibly teams that will probably lose less games than the Valkyries. How about that? That's what I'm saying right now. Because there is one team in particular that I haven't really heard much about making any moves, and maybe they've just been so quiet that I haven't heard anything. But I haven't heard much from Washington. Um, I'm not sure why. I feel like they have some very good pieces around them, but I don't see them being. There wasn't a great team last year to where they think they have everything they need, right? No, Elena Deladon did not play last season, so I don't know. Maybe they know something that we don't know. We'll see, but I definitely want to see Washington like show us that they're present, like what's happening, right? Next, we have Alyssa Clark leaving Vegas and coming back home to Seattle. I love this move. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because that makes Seattle a veteran team with some young players sprinkled in, and some very good young players with Jordan Horston and Izzy Magnabor. And I am like, yes, right? I don't like the fact that Sammy Whitcomb left, but I think that's why they were able to get Alyssa Clark, was because Sammy Whitcomb left. So I think that was a huge blow to the franchise in general. I don't think much to the team as a whole, but I think just as the culture changed, it's like you have Alyssa Clark and you have Alicia Clark and then you have Sammy Whitcomb, who were like Seattle. Uh, they were with the teams through all the craziness, the championships, and both of those players are loved by the fans, um, by the fans in Seattle. They're loved by all of Seattle. So to see Sammy go was tough, but know that Clark is coming back, that's I like that. I like that. But when you think about Seattle's roster, they got Skylar Diggins Smith, Jordan Horston, who's a young player who has a lot of energy. She can get up and down the floor. She can dribble. She can pass. She can shoot threes. She can take it in. Right? She's a big guard. Right? But they will throw her in the post. And Ezzy McAvoy, who is amazing. Okay, Ezzy does everything that Seattle needs her to do. If they need her to shoot a three, she's going to shoot that three, right? She is one of the premier shot blockers in the league, so her defense is on point. Her offense is on point. She runs the floor. She is ready for someone to throw her the ball at all times, right? You have Nika Mule, right, who this will be her second season, and that's why I said that Seattle is a mix of young and veterans because you have Horston, Izzy McAvoy and Mule, all young players, and they all have someone on the team that's a veteran who can help them be better. You have Nneka Gumake, Mercedes Russell, who is also a longtime Storms player, Victoria Vivens, Gabby Williams, um, and Lee Yura, who was what they got from LA. Will she play this season? I'm not sure. And then obviously getting Clark back as well is definitely a huge win for Seattle. So I feel like Seattle has, even though they lost Jewel Lloyd, they will still be a team that will be contending. They won't be a team that's gonna sit back this season and see how everyone plays together, get their chemistry. They will be contenders this year. Um, After that, Cheyenne Parker, Tyus, I believe, she is now going to Vegas. I kind of saw this coming with, obviously she's leaving Atlanta. I saw it coming when Atlanta signed Brittany Griner and Breon Jones, I was like, at first when I saw the trades, I was like, is Cheyenne Parker not there anymore? Like, did she leave already? But she just left and went to Vegas. Um, because that's too many. That's just too many, right? Parker is a very good player. Yeah, she has helped Atlanta out so much, and I think she will help Vegas out just as much, giving them more bigger bodies to go in the post, swapping out with Asia Wilson or playing alongside with her. I think it's always good to have two competent post players together on the floor at all times. Just because post players know how to pass to each other. That's about as simple as I can put it. Post players know how to pass to each other because they know where they want the ball. So they're going to give that other post player the ball in a perfect spot. So I'm excited to see that. And then obviously we had a little craziness happen, right? Marina maybe requested a trade from Connecticut, which I get. I get it, right? You requested a trade from Chicago because you wanted to be on a winning team, and then that winning team just up and left. Everyone left, coach and everyone. And you're like, all right, I want to trade. But I think this is a lesson. I think this is a lesson that all young players need to learn. Stay where you at for a little bit. Give it a give it time to progress and see where things are going. Like, do I think she should have stayed in Chicago? Absolutely. I think she should have stayed in Chicago, but she wanted to trade. She requested it. They did what she wanted, right? But now she's in Connecticut and now is requesting another trade 6, 7 months after she requested her last trade. So, do I see Connecticut doing it? Not really. But it depends on how big of a stink that Mabry makes it. Which she can make it pretty big because this all came out in the press, right? ESPN popped it out saying, "Hey, she want to trade," right? Her managers and all popped up and said, "This is what we want." Um, I believe that if they do send her somewhere, I believe that they should send her to the Valkyries, um, because obviously, she wants to go to a contender because that's why she left Chicago. She wanted to go to Connecticut, who were contenders, right? They were a team of 100% veterans, and that's where she wanted to be. But I don't think she's going to really get her way this time. So we will see how that all turns out, right? But that's all I have today for you guys. Thank you for watching and supporting. Like, comment, subscribe. Uh, Let me know what you guys want me to talk about. Yeah. So peace, love, happiness.